Chapter 1: The Algorithm of Division. In today's hyper-connected digital world, social media platforms have become the battleground for one of the most intense and emotionally charged cultural wars, the gender war between black men and black women. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter are flooded with viral clips, debate panels, reaction videos, and podcast excerpts that pit one side against the other, often under the guise of empowerment, awareness, or truth-telling. Algorithms reward division. Content that sparks outrage, sarcasm, or emotional reactions is far more likely to go viral than content that promotes unity or mutual understanding. As a result, the loudest and most extreme voices often drown out more moderate, nuanced perspectives. What emerges is a digital environment where caricatures are rewarded and real communication is punished. Black women are painted as hyper-independent, masculine, bitter, and combative. Black men are labeled as emotionally unavailable, broke, irresponsible, or misogynistic. These stereotypes are not only reductive, they're damaging. They strip people of their individuality and reduce the rich complexity of human relationships into performative sound bites. In this ecosystem, pain is entertainment, trauma is monetized, podcasts that discuss high-value men or feminine women rack up millions of views, clips of women saying they don't need a man or a man saying she brings nothing to the table are endlessly stitched and shared, often with mocking commentary. The result? A digital echo chamber where both black men and women feel misunderstood, attacked, and abandoned by one another. A space where vulnerability is ridiculed and defense mechanisms become the default mode of communication. But beneath all the theatrics lies something real, something raw: disappointment, fear, frustration, unmet needs, broken trust, unrealistic expectations, people trying to protect themselves from more heartbreak by hardening into armor. This book seeks to move past the algorithms and get to the root, to uncover the beliefs, experiences, and wounds that drive this division, and ultimately to explore if reconciliation, healing, and mutual understanding are still possible. Chapter 2: Common Talking Points, Black Man Perspective. In the evolving gender conversation, many black men have taken to social media to voice long-held frustrations, misgivings, and perceived injustices when it comes to dating, relationships, and modern womanhood. While individual opinions vary, several recurring themes and talking points dominate the discourse across platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and podcasts like Fresh and Fit, Hardly Initiated, and The Roommates. 1. Lack of respect and appreciation. A consistent grievance among black men is the belief that they are not respected or appreciated in their relationships. They feel their contributions, emotional support, hard work, financial provision often go unnoticed or are treated as baseline expectations rather than voluntary acts of care. Black men are only valued for what we can do, not for what we are. TikTok creator, The Real Sean R. 2. The masculine woman problem. Many men express discomfort with what they perceive as an increase in aggressive or domineering behavior from women. The terms masculine energy, hyper-independence, and you act like a man are frequently used. Some men feel like they're being asked to be emotionally open and vulnerable while simultaneously being expected to provide financially and lead in traditional ways. She wants to be the boss and still wants a boss. Pick one. Comment on a viral modern woman YouTube short. 3. High standards, low reciprocity. Another recurring talking point is the perceived imbalance of expectations. Men often feel that women come into relationships with a long list of non-negotiables: height, income, status, lifestyle, while offering little in return aside from physical appearance and access. She wants a six-figure man, 6 feet tall, with six-pack abs, while bringing debt, trauma, and attitude. Anonymous Instagram meme with over 100K likes. 4. Paternity fraud and child support abuse. Some men raise concerns about the legal and financial vulnerabilities tied to fatherhood. Paternity fraud being placed on child support for children they later find out aren't biologically theirs, or being denied access to their kids by vindictive exes are all cited as traumatic, unjust experiences. 5. Being used for free attention or financial gain. Men frequently express frustration on being tricked into spending time, energy, and money on women who have no romantic interest in them. The idea that women will accept free meals, gifts, or date experiences from men they are not attracted to feeds into a narrative of transactional, manipulative behavior. 6. No safe space for male vulnerability. Finally, many black men feel like they're not allowed to be emotionally expressive or vulnerable without being shamed. Whether it's relationships or online discussions, expressing pain is often met with mockery or dismissal. Men don't open up because when we do, it's used against us. YouTube comment under a therapy discussion clip. While some of these talking points are rooted in valid experiences, others are clearly shaped by algorithm-fed extremes and echo chambers. Still, they represent a broader cultural frustration that cannot be dismissed if any kind of reconciliation or healing is to take place. Chapter 3. Common talking points. Black women's perspective. Just as black men have voiced their grievances online, black women have taken to social media to express their frustrations with modern dating, gender roles, and the emotional toll of navigating relationships with men they feel often misunderstand, mistreat, or unappreciate them. Across platforms like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and in podcasts like Poor Minds, See the Things Is, and The Grapevine, these things appear over and over. 1. Emotional unavailability of black men. One of the most common frustrations voiced by black women is the belief that many black men struggle to express emotions, communicate, or be vulnerable in relationships. Women often say they are forced into the role of emotional caretakers, often trying to break down walls just to connect. Why do we have to raise men just to date them? TikTok clip from She Said What Pod. 2. Lack of leadership or ambition. Black women frequently cite concerns about dating men who lack direction, motivation, or financial stability. The complaint is not always about a man's income, but about his sense of drive, consistency, and long-term vision. I can build with a man, but I'm not gonna lay the bricks while he's still deciding if he wants to show up. Instagram quote meme reposted by Spiritual Sisterhood. 3. Fear being used for support without commitment. Many women feel they are expected to act as a man's therapist, motivator, and even financier without any promise of security or commitment. They express frustration with situationships that drag on for years with no growth or progression. 4. Hyperfocus on physical appearance and submission. Women often push back on the perceived obsession with looks and femininity standards promoted by male influencers. The idea that their worth is tied solely to beauty, body type, or submissiveness is seen as reductive and dehumanizing. So I'm supposed to be a 10, cook, clean, shut up, and still get cheated on? Make it make sense. Coming from YouTube discussion panel on modern dating. 5. Fear of disrespect or abuse. Many black women share that they do not feel comfortable or physically safe around men, whether it's being shouted at in public for rejecting advances or dealing with controlling partners. Safety is a recurring theme. They want men to understand that protection includes respect, not just physical defense. 6. The build a man burden. Black women frequently express exhaustion at having to be strong, supportive, and adaptable in relationships where they feel they're not met with equal effort. They feel they are constantly expected to pour into man emotionally and financially during his potential years, only to watch him grow and give someone else the final version. I'm not your therapist, your mama, or your investor. I'm your woman. Podcast quote from Cocktails and Queens. The divide. Just like the talking points from men, some of these grievances are rooted in very real experiences. While others may be exaggerated or influenced by online echo chambers, still, they highlight a growing divide in expectations, communication, and emotional needs between Black men and women. Each side feels unheard, each side feels exploited, and in that shared pain lies the opportunity for healing if either is willing to listen. Chapter 4. The Role of a Stepfather. Perspectives, Challenges, and Rewards. An ongoing debate in male-focused spaces on platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram centers around whether being a stepfather is truly in a man's best interest or if it's a role fraught with emotional, financial, and legacy-based risks. Men are increasingly asking hard questions. Does stepping into another man's role benefit me, or am I inheriting someone else's responsibility and baggage? Is being a stepfather in a man's best interest? Some content creators argue that being a stepfather places a man in a precarious position. He may be expected to provide, protect, and parent children who are not biologically his, often without the respect or authority granted to a biological father. On Instagram and YouTube, popular talking points include phrases like, "You're just a utility," or "She got the child from the alpha and now wants the beta to raise it." These sentiments reflect the belief that many women seek stepfathers not out of romantic desire, but out of logistical necessity. There are also emotional risks. Men who step into these roles may form strong bonds with children, only to lose access after a breakup. In legal terms, stepfathers rarely have custodial rights, no matter how active their role may have been. Are children a liability or a legacy opportunity? Some men view children as a potential liability, emotionally, financially, and even physically. If the children act out, show disrespect, or are used as emotional pawns by the mother, the situation can become toxic quickly. TikTok videos often show men venting about being expected to step up while being simultaneously told you are not the real dad. On the flip side, there are men who see stepfatherhood as a calling. They believe in the power of influence, redemption, and love. They see their legacy not in bloodline, but in impact. Podcasts like Blended Fatherhood share stories of men who change their child's trajectory for the better and who are forever seen as dad, regardless of DNA. Who benefits more, the man or the woman? From a structural perspective, the woman often gains the most from a stepfather's involvement. She gains additional financial support, emotional stability, help with parenting, and companionship. Her child gains structure and possibly a positive male role model. The man, on the other hand, may benefit emotionally or spiritually, but often sacrifices time, resources, and autonomy without long-term guarantees. If the relationship fails, the woman still has her children and possibly some financial help. The man may walk away emotionally drained and legally empty-handed. Does it help a man's legacy? That depends on how you define legacy. If legacy means bloodline, inheritance, and genetic continuation, then no, it does little. But if legacy means influence, care, and the mark you leave on someone's life, then yes, it could mean everything. Ultimately, men must weigh those factors based on their values, boundaries, and long-term goals. Stepfatherhood is not inherently bad or good, it's deeply situational. Fictional examples and social media quotes. To bring these perspectives to life, consider the story of Terry, a 36-year-old warehouse supervisor who married a single mother of two. Initially, he was committed to being a father figure, even helping one of the boys get into a youth football league. But when the relationship fell apart after 3 years, Terry found himself cut off from the kids completely. I gave them everything, he shared on a Facebook reel. But when I left their mom, I lost them too. His story illustrates how emotional investment without legal or biological ties can leave a man vulnerable. Contrast that with Victor, a 45-year-old retired Navy vet who raised his wife's daughter from the age of 5. On a YouTube interview with the Dad Nation podcast, he said, "I may not have made her, but I made her better." Today, his stepdaughter calls him dad and asks him to walk her down the aisles. Victor acknowledges the risks, but for him, the emotional reward outweighed them. On TikTok, a creator by the name of Money Mind Marcus gained attention for a viral clip. Being a stepdad is like leasing a car. You put miles on it, but you can't keep it. The analogy sparked debate, with thousands of comments split between calling the post misogynistic and others saying it reflected a harsh truth. Another viral quote shared on Instagram reads, "A real man steps up." But in the comments, a user replied, "A real man doesn't step into chaos without a plan." These exchanges reflect the ideology split online. Some glorify stepfatherhood as noble, while others see it as self-sacrificial and strategically unwise. Chapter 5. Marriage, Divorce, and Family Structure. The state of marriage and family in the Black community is a complex, emotionally charged subject, one that sparks debate across barbershops, brunch tables, social media feeds, and podcasts alike. While many desire love, stability, and legacy, the realities of marriage and family today often conflict with romanticized ideas. Marriage rates and declines. According to the U.S. Census data, Black Americans have some of the lowest marriage rates of any racial group in the country. As of recent years, only about 30% of Black Americans were married, compared to nearly 50% of white adults. There are many theories behind the decline. Economic instability disproportionately affecting Black men, mass incarceration reducing the pool of eligible partners, cultural shifts that de-emphasize traditional marriage, distrust between the sexes fueled by social and generational trauma. On social media, some men argue that marriage is no longer a viable institution for men. A common phrase circulating on TikTok and YouTube is, "The juice ain't worth the squeeze." Who files for divorce? Divorce statistics complicate things even more. According to the American Sociological Association, 70 through 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Among college-educated women, that number is even higher. Black women are statistically less likely to marry, but more likely to initiate divorce when they do. Reasons range from dissatisfaction with gender roles, lack of emotional support, infidelity, and financial hardship. Podcasts often frame this data through sharply divided lenses. Some men claim this is proof that modern women are never satisfied, while many women argue it reflects years of unreciprocated labor and emotional neglect. Single motherhood and broken homes. The reality of single-parent homes, especially those led by mothers, is another point of contention. Over 60% of Black children are raised in single-parent households, usually by mothers. This statistic is often used in debates, but the causes are layered. Mass incarceration, low marriage rates, high breakup rates amongst unmarried parents, cultural shifts in parity and gender roles. On one side, men argue they're shut out of their children's lives due to biases in family courts. On the other, women speak about absent fathers, broken promises, and ghosting after pregnancy. Does marriage still matter? For many Black men and women, marriage still symbolizes stability, respectability, and family legacy. But the terms of that arrangement are being renegotiated. Some women expect traditional protection and provision while rejecting submissive roles. Some men expect loyalty and peace without necessarily providing financial leadership. Others believe cohabitation, Long-term partnerships or even solo parenting makes more sense than traditional marriage. In truth, both sides are trying to protect themselves either from disappointment or from exploitation. A broken structure or an evolving one. Is the Black family broken or just changing? Some believe there's been a deliberate breakdown of Black families through policy, media, messaging, and incarceration. Others argue that the institute of marriage is outdated altogether and must be replaced with something more equitable and realistic. What's clear is this: the expectations, goals, and fears surrounding marriage and family are dramatically different than they were 50 years ago. And without honest dialogue, those gaps will only grow wider. Chapter 6: Obesity, Health, and Dating Preferences. Conversations around dating preferences and body image have become increasingly polarized in the Black community, particularly when it comes to weight and health. While attraction is often labeled as just preference, many online debates reveal deeper tension related to accountability, shaming, entitlement, and double standards. The statistics. According to the CDC, about 57% of Black women are classified as obese. Among Black men, the obesity rate is roughly 41%. Black women have one of the highest rates of obesity in the U.S., often attributed to a mix of cultural, socioeconomic, environmental, and genetic factors. Despite this, a significant portion of online discourse focuses more critically on women's weight than men's, especially in dating contexts. Male talking points. Just get in the gym. Many male influencers on YouTube and Instagram frame weight as a matter of personal accountability. The sentiment is often, men have to get their money up, women need to get their weight down. Some men equate weight to discipline and self-respect, arguing that they're not obligated to date someone who is overweight, especially if they're actively investing in their own health. However, critics argue that many of these men use health as a cloak for superficiality and are often not in shape themselves. It's not uncommon to find an overweight man demanding fit, feminine, friendly women without applying those same standards to himself. Female talking points. Love me as I am. From the female side, there's a push for body positivity and acceptance. Many women reject the idea that they should lose weight to be considered desirable, especially when their self-worth is not tied to their waistline. They argue that attraction is subjective, and some men do prefer thicker or plus-size women. You weren't complaining when you were in my DMs, viral tweet with over 50K retweets. At the same time, some women admit to struggling with weight but feel shame instead of supported. The pressure to conform to Instagram body standards while also balancing motherhood, work, and stress can feel overwhelming. Double standards and dating tension. The conflict gets messy when one group expects what they don't embody. For example, a man with a gut demanding a woman with abs. A woman who wants a provider but rejects any accountability for her own lifestyle or health. These contradictions lead to resentment and accusations on both sides of delusion, hypocrisy, and unrealistic standards. Health versus aesthetics. One under-discussed angle is the difference between being healthy and being thin. Some women may be larger but metabolically healthy. Some men may be slim but have poor diets and no stamina. Health and aesthetics are not always aligned, but in dating culture, they're often treated as the same. Cultural influence. In many Black households and communities, being thick is celebrated, especially in music, media, and pop culture. But as Western beauty standards dominate online platforms, the divide between what's embraced in private versus what's embraced publicly has widened. This cultural tug-of-war creates confusion. Should people pursue what's trendy or what feels authentic to them? The real issue: shaming versus standards. People have the right to preferences. But when preferences become public policies of shame, ridicule, or exclusion, they begin to damage more than just egos. They damage community. The real solution may lie in distinguishing accountability from attack and standards from shaming. Until we can have that conversation honestly, weight will remain a proxy battle for deeper frustrations about desirability, value, and identity. Chapter 7: Media, Music, and Masculinity. Mass media, especially music and entertainment, has played a profound role in shaping how Black men and women see each other, and more importantly, how they see themselves. From hip-hop videos to reality TV, the imagery we consume daily is not just entertainment. It's education, often teaching distorted lessons about gender roles, relationships, and masculinity. The rise of hypermasculinity. Hip-hop culture, while a rich artistic tradition and outlet for truth-telling, has also glamorized a specific type of masculinity. Emotionless, money-driven, dominant, sexually vicarious. The archetype of the player, the boss, of the street king is everywhere. In lyrics, Black masculinity is often tied to how many women you slept with, how much money you have, how filled or respected you are, and how little emotion you show. Real man don't cry, real man grind. A common sentiment found across TikTok motivation clips. These narratives may be empowering on the surface, but often discourage vulnerability, emotional intelligence, or fatherhood. For a young man growing up without strong male role models, the music becomes the blueprint. The thug love trope. Music videos and Instagram reels often portray toxic relationships as passionate or thrilling. A man disrespecting a woman is framed as dominance. A woman being jealous or combative is presented as ride or die loyalty. This romanticization of dysfunction teaches men that aggression equals leadership and teaches women that chaos equals love. Reality TV and relationship spectacles. Shows like Love and Hip Hop, Black Ink Crew, and the Zeus Network's vital lineup of chaotic dating shows portray Black relationships through a lens of drama, betrayal, and toxicity. This isn't accidental, it's curated. Conflict sells, peace doesn't trend. But the consequence is that millions of viewers, especially teens and young adults, begin to internalize these behaviors as normal or worse, aspirational. Social media amplification. Social media has made every user a brand, and many men online feel pressure to display exaggerated masculinity to gain views and respect. Flashy cars they can't afford. Women they don't love or respect. Money stacks they borrow for the weekend. It's not about being masculine anymore. It's about looking masculine. In this landscape, being a loving husband, engaged father, or emotionally intelligent man is rarely celebrated. Instead, masculinity becomes a costume, not a character trait. The impact on identity. Young Black boys are watching. They're absorbing what society rewards and what it mocks. If they see masculinity tied only to money, dominance, and stoicism, they will suppress their vulnerability and silence their emotional needs. If they only see men praised for how many women they can get, but never how they treat them, they will learn to chase conquest, not connection. Reclaiming masculinity. There's a growing counterculture of men who are redefining masculinity. Fathers who post parenting wins. Husbands who speak openly about therapy and emotional support. Creators who challenge the alpha male rhetoric with nuance. Podcasts like The Roommates and Dear Future Wifey explore manhood, accountability, and purpose in ways that go beyond surface level performance. Real masculinity is rooted in responsibility, protection, leadership, and emotional integrity. But Until the media rewards these traits as much as it does toxicity, the battle for young black male identity will rage on. Chapter 8: Feminism, Hyper-Independence in the Soft Life Era. The cultural relationship between black women and feminism has evolved into one of the most polarizing topics in modern discourse. While feminism was intended to promote gender equality, its application in the black community, especially as filtered through mainstream media, has birthed offshoots of hyper-independence, gender role confusion, and what some now refer to as the soft life era. The roots of feminism in the black community. Black women were often at the forefront of social justice movements, yet sidelined in both feminist and civil rights spaces. Mainstream feminism, historically dominated by white women, didn't always reflect the unique struggles of black women who faced both racism and sexism simultaneously. To this day, some black women feel torn between supporting feminist ideas and maintaining cultural alignment with black men, especially in a society that already marginalizes black families. Hyper-independence, a trauma response. The term hyper-independence is used frequently on platforms like TikTok and Twitter to describe women who refuse help, carry the weight of multiple roles, and see emotional vulnerability as weakness. For many, it's not a choice, it's survival. Generations of single motherhood, systemic abandonment, and economic exclusion have taught many black women to rely on themselves. But what began as resilience is now being criticized, especially by black men, as resistance to partnership. A common online complaint from men is, "She wants to be the man and the woman." Black women counter with, "When have we ever had the luxury of leaning on someone?" This tension reveals how both genders are reacting to unhealed traumas and projecting those onto each other. The rise of the soft life era. In recent years, there's been a cultural shift where black women are rejecting the strong black woman identity in favor of the soft life. This movement champions ease over struggle, femininity over grind culture, receiving over constantly giving, emotional and financial peace. It's often portrayed through aesthetics, silk robes, luxury vacations, spa days, and romanticized femininity. Critics, particularly male creators, argue that soft life is a code for being spoiled, lazy, or entitled. Supporters say it's a long overdue reprieve from centuries of being forced to be everything for everyone. Male frustration with changing gender roles. Many black men express confusion and frustration with women who demand modern freedoms and traditional protections. How are you the boss and still want me to pay for everything? There's a growing call for man for reciprocity, partnership, and femininity, not just independence masked as progress. The real conflict, autonomy versus intimacy. At the heart of the gender war is this clash. Men want peace and partnership. Women want freedom and safety. But many don't know how to offer the other what they seek. Black women are saying, "Let me be soft." Black men are replying, "Then let me lead." Until both sides trust that vulnerability won't be exploited, they'll remain locked in a standoff, each seeing the other as the threat, not the answer. Chapter 9: The Politics of Protection. One of the most emotionally charged debates in the gender war discourse is the question of protection. Black women frequently express frustration and disappointment with what they perceive as a lack of emotional, physical, and communal protection from black men. In response, many black men feel unfairly burdened with expectations they were never taught how to fulfill or that they feel are not reciprocated. Who protects black women? This conversation intensified following the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. While both tragedies sparked nationwide protests, many black women noted that the outrage and mobilization around Floyd's murder felt more widespread and passionate than the response to Taylor's death. This sparked the viral question, who protects black women? To explore this further, consider the story of Nia, a 25-year-old grad student in Oakland. During a late-night ride home, she was verbally harassed by a group of men on the train. Despite multiple black men being nearby, no one intervened. That moment shifted everything for me, she said. I realized I can't expect protection just because we share a racial identity. Nia turned to online communities for support, but found even more heartbreak as some men dismissed her experiences, saying she must have done something to provoke them. Black man trying to show up. Contrast that with Chris, a 38-year-old Army veteran in Jacksonville who prides himself on standing up for black women. He regularly speaks out against misogyny in his social circles and once defended a woman being verbally attacked outside a club. But instead of praise, he was mocked by his friends and called a simp. You're damned if you do, invisible if you don't, Chris says. Then there's Simone and Marcus, a married couple in Detroit. When Simone lost her job during the pandemic, Marcus stepped up, not just financially, but emotionally. He encouraged her to start therapy and even join her for sessions. Simone later said it was the first time she felt truly protected, not just from harm, but from herself. Marcus, meanwhile, felt equally affirmed by Simone's support during his struggles with depression. Their story demonstrates that protection isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and mutual. What does protection really mean? For many black women, protection means more than just physical safety. It includes advocacy in public and private spaces, emotional availability, defending them against microaggressions, standing up to other men when needed. When a black woman is disrespected or harmed, whether in music, media, or real life, she wants to know that her male counterparts will not be silent. On the other side, many black men express that they feel unsupported emotionally. The phrase, men have feelings too, is more than just a meme. It's a cry for help in a society where black men are socialized to suppress vulnerability. They want us to protect them, but who protects us? YouTube comment under a relationship panel video. A cycle of distrust. Complicating matters is the deep distrust seeded by historical betrayals, generational trauma, and romantic disappointments. Some men feel that no matter what they do, it's never enough. Some women feel their pain is invisible. The result is a cycle of perceived neglect and resentment on both sides. Social media adds fuel to the fire. Viral videos of black women being attacked with onlookers doing nothing, or clips of women venting their exhaustion from carrying households alone evoke visceral reactions. So do videos of men lamenting about being used, ignored, or mocked when they express vulnerability. The comment sections often become battlegrounds of whataboutism, with neither side fully listening. Toward mutual protection. Breaking this cycle requires a redefinition of what protection and support actually means. For black men, it may mean unlearning toxic masculinity and being more present emotionally and vocally. For black women, it may involve allowing space for men to be vulnerable and affirming them when they do show up. Communal healing starts when protection is viewed as mutual responsibility, not a one-sided demand. Protection is about presence, empathy, and consistency, not just strength. The question isn't just who protects who, it's how do we protect each other in a world that often seeks to harm us both. Only by addressing this can we begin to build trust where it's been broken. Chapter 10, The Meat Principle, Protecting Your Mind, Energy, Assets, and Time. In the modern world of dating, many men, particularly black men, have found themselves emotionally drained, financially depleted, and psychologically confused from romantic engagements that yielded more stress than satisfaction. Out of this growing frustration has come a new acronym circulating the men's spaces and relationship podcasts. MEAT. Mind, energy, assets, and time. MEAT is just not a catchy phrase, it's a strategy, a framework, a personal boundary system meant to remind men that their most valuable resources are finite and should be protected, especially in relationships where reciprocity is unclear. M. Mind. Your mental health is your foundation. Engaging with women who belittle, manipulate, gaslight, or emotionally neglect you can have long-term effects on your confidence, clarity, and peace of mind. Many men continue relationships that damage their mental health out of the fear of being alone, social pressure to man up, or misguided loyalty. But as conversations around therapy and self-care become more common, men are starting to realize If she costs me my peace, she's too expensive. E. Energy. Physical and emotional energy are limited. If you're spending your day solving someone else's problems, defending your actions, chasing validation, or constantly fixing chaos, you're depleting energy you could use for your goals, your family, or yourself. Some men describe feeling drained after being around certain women. That's not just emotional. Stress affects testosterone, motivation, sleep, and even immune function. Your energy is fuel. Don't waste it. A. Assets. This includes your money, car, reputation, or anything you work hard to build. While sharing is natural in relationships, giving too early, too much, or without reciprocation puts men at high risk, especially in a culture where legal and social systems often don't favor men post-breakup. Don't fund her lifestyle if she wouldn't ride the bus with you. Quote from Men's Finance Podcast. Financial exploitation isn't always direct. It can come from the form of test dates, struggle sob stories, or pressures to prove your value through spending. Meet reminds you to assess a woman's intentions and contribution before putting assets on the table. T. Time. Time is the only resource you can't get back. Many men waste months, sometimes years in relationships with women who don't respect them, aren't interested in commitment, or simply view them as a temporary placeholder until something better comes along. Investing your time in someone who sees you as disposable is the most expensive decision you can make. Real life application. Consider Brandon, a 31-year-old nurse who spent 2 years with a woman who constantly questioned his masculinity, belittled his goals, and flirted openly with other men. When he finally left, he realized he hadn't written in his journal, gone to the gym, or saved money in almost a year. I gave her my meat, he said, and she ate, and I starved. Contrast that with Jerome, a 29-year-old entrepreneur who set clear boundaries with the women he dated. He wouldn't allow excessive emotional dumping, avoided extravagant early dates, and communicated his long-term intentions from the jump. Most women fell off quickly, he said, but the ones who stayed respected me more. The takeaway: you are not an ATM. You are not a therapist. You are not a babysitter for unsolved trauma. You're a man with purpose, with goals, with value. If your mind, energy, assets, or time are being consumed without return or respect, it's time to walk away. The meat principle isn't anti-women, it's pro-boundary. It encourages men to lead with intention, not impulse. To assess, not assume. To protect their value as fiercely as they are taught to protect others. Chapter 11. The CPN Formula. Protecting yourself with cost per nut logic. In a dating landscape where expectations can be unspoken and financial burdens unevenly distributed, many men find themselves spending time and money on women who may not be equally interested. To combat this imbalance, some have adopted a practical framework called the CPN Formula, short for cost per nut. This formula is a tongue-in-cheek yet strategically serious method for ensuring men don't overextend themselves financially or emotionally while dating. What is the CPN formula? The cost per nut formula is a self-imposed spending limit designed to protect a man's resources by trying to maximize financial investment to what he would hypothetically be willing to pay for sex. While no money should actually exchange hands for intimacy in legal or healthy relationships, this mental model gives men a rational ceiling for time and money spent without receiving intimacy, interest, or reciprocation in return. How it works. A man determines his CPN cap, the maximum dollar amount he hypothetically be willing to spend to obtain sex. On every date, he tracks how much is spent on her, not including his own meal or experience. The total amount he spends is subtracted from his CPN cap. Example, His CPN equals $150. Date 1, dinner for 2 equals 100. Divided by 2, $50 spent on her. Remaining budget, $100. If sex hasn't occurred by the time he reaches or exceeds $150, the advice is clear. Disengage and move on. Why it matters. The CPN formula isn't about commodifying women. It's about men avoiding emotional and financial overextension. It's a response for the common dating experience where men consistently invest in women who may never return their interest, time, or affection. It's a defense mechanism against being the food guy, the pay my bills guy, or the placeholder boyfriend until someone else comes along. Real world application. Take Tyrell, a 28-year-old digital marketer who used to go all out for first dates. Dinner, Uber rides, rooftop bars, $250 tabs, only to be ghosted. After hearing about the CPN formula on a finance podcast, he capped his dating budget to $100 per woman. It wasn't about the money, he says. It was about knowing when to walk away. He soon found that women who were genuinely interested didn't care about lavish spending, and the ones who did usually weren't interested in him anyway. It's not one size fits all. Each man's CPN cap is personal. For one man, it may be $50. For another, $200. What matters is the principle. Don't spend beyond your internal value cap if there's no interest being reciprocated. And remember, this isn't about earning sex. It's about recognizing when you're being strung along. What the CPN formula is not. It's not a replacement for emotional intelligence. It's not a tool to manipulate or pressure women. It's not a guarantee of anything. What the CPN formula is: a budget for time and emotional investment, a filter for intent, a guideline for self-respect and boundaries. The takeaway: in a world where men are often told to step up with no clear roadmap or reward, the CPN formula offers a pragmatic boundary. It tells men you are valuable, and your time, money, and emotional bandwidth should be treated as such. The goal isn't to be cheap, it's to be conscious, because once you exceed your cost per nut without return, you're no longer dating, you're subsidizing. Chapter 12, The Ugly Tax. In the world of modern dating, not all attention is created equal, and neither is the cost. One concept that brings clarity to a recurring but rarely named experience is something I call the ugly tax. The ugly tax is a price a man has to pay when a woman isn't truly into him but continues to entertain his presence for some form of benefit. This tax compensates for her lack of physical or emotional attraction by attaching value in the form of resources, dates, gifts, or even direct cash transfers. Unlike traditional dating expectations, where mutual interest drives investment, the ugly tax is one-sided. It exists specifically in situations where a woman has to justify why she's spending time with a man she otherwise wouldn't be intimate with. That justification? Your wallet, your time, or your generosity. Forms of the ugly tax. Dates. If a woman isn't attracted to you, but still agrees to go out, the quality, number, and cost of the date she expects will rise. She needs something to make the time worth it. For one man, intimacy may happen after a $10 coffee date. For another, it might take 5 lavish dinners. And even then, nothing is guaranteed. Gifts. Jewelry, handbags, surprise deliveries, or expensive items can become expected tributes to keep a woman interested, even marginally. These gifts are less about appreciation and more about compensation. Direct cash transfers, sometimes masked as help with bills, gas money, or I need a little something. These payments aren't rooted in emotional intimacy, but in transactional maintenance. In short, she's being paid to tolerate the interaction. Every man's tax is different. It's important to note that the ugly tax is not universal. It varies from woman to woman and even relationship to relationship. A man who must pay a 3-day ugly tax with one woman may be required to pay a 5-date version with another. The tax is subjective and tied directly to how little attraction or interest the woman feels. Some may argue this behavior is manipulative or exploitative. Others may say it's just the cost of doing business in today's dating economy. But here's the truth. If a woman is genuinely interested in a man, she doesn't need convincing. Attraction drives desire, and desire makes things move quickly. If a woman is truly into you, she'll want to be around you with minimum prompting. You won't have to overperform, overspend, or overstay just to gain proximity. In fact, most women who are genuinely attracted to a man will sleep with him after 0 to 1 date. The men who are forced to do more are usually paying the ugly tax. Fictional examples. To illustrate, take Rodney, a 34-year-old mechanic from Atlanta. Rodney met a woman named Tasha at a lounge and began courting her immediately. Over the course of 2 months, he took her on 6 upscale dates, bought her concert tickets, and paid for her car note once when she claimed she was short on cash. Despite the investment, intimacy never came. When Rodney asked where the relationship was headed, Tasha replied, "I'm just enjoying your company." Realizing he'd been placed in the ugly tax category, Rodney pulled back and began reassessing his dating strategy. Then there's Marquise, a soft-spoken IT consultant from Houston who went on a date with a woman named Keisha he met through friends. Keisha wasn't attracted to Marquise, but agreed to the date anyway. After he spent $250 on dinner and drinks, she told her homegirl, "He's not really my type, but he's generous." Keisha continued entertaining Marquise for 3 more dates, each more expensive than the last, until she suddenly ghosted him. Contrast that with Troy, a 28-year-old fitness trainer. When he met Danielle at the gym, she showed immediate interest. They had coffee once and ended up spending the weekend together shortly after. No expensive dinners, no cash apps, no games. Danielle liked him. And because the attraction was mutual, no ugly tax was necessary. These stories highlight the silent cost men pay when they ignore the signs of low interest. The ugly tax is real, and it's costing men their money, time, and dignity. Chapter 13. Good products don't collect dust. In the world of commerce, there's a simple truth. Products that meet market demand don't sit on the shelves. The hottest tech gadgets, the best-selling books, the highest-rated restaurants, they move fast. They stay in demand because they meet people's needs, solve real problems, or offer undeniable value. The same logic applies for the dating market, especially for women navigating their prime dating years. If a woman reaches the ages of 30 to 35 without having secured a stable, long-term relationship or continually insists that men aren't good enough for her, it raises legitimate questions. It doesn't automatically make her a bad person or undesirable, but it should trigger critical thinking rather than blind acceptance of her narrative. Because the truth is, good products don't collect dust. In dating, as in economics, supply and demand rule everything. A woman who is highly desirable, emotionally healthy, feminine, attractive, cooperative, and mentally mature will rarely stay on the shelf for long. If the demand for her is high and she meets the criteria men are actually seeking, the natural flow of the market will pull her into a relationship. If she's still lingering in the dating market, blaming men collectively while offering no introspection into her own patterns, the issue may not be a shortage of good men. it may be a lack of market fit. In plain terms, if her relationship product isn't moving, maybe it's not as high value as advertised. Excuses versus reality. Women in this age range often promote narratives like, I'm too independent and men are intimidated. Men don't know how to handle a strong woman. I just haven't found someone on my level. While these phrases can sometimes be true, they often serve as PR cover to avoid the real, harsher market realities. Overvaluation. She believes she deserves the top 5% of men while offering average or declining value herself. Stale product. Years of emotional baggage, bitterness, and hardened independence may have lowered her relationship desirability. Market saturation. Younger, newer entrants, women 22 through 28, flood the market with freshness, vibrancy, and fertility, attributes many men actively seek. What dust really means. When a product sits unsold, retailers don't just blame the customers. They reassess. Is the product outdated? Is the packaging appealing? Does the product meet what the market demands today? Is the price point justified for the perceived value? Likewise, lingering in the dating market past 30 through 35 isn't just a matter of bad luck. It's often a signal that something needs evaluation. Attitude, trauma, entitlement, unrealistic standards, lack of self-awareness. Demand always reveals value. If no serious suitors are committing, that's the market speaking, loud and clear. A fictional example. Take Jasmine, a 33-year-old marketing executive. She boasts a 6-figure salary, travels the world, and prides herself on not needing a man. She often says men are intimidated by her success. Yet, she's been single for 8 years, with relationships rarely lasting more than a few months. Meanwhile, Melanie, a 26-year-old teacher with a moderate income but a cooperative spirit, a nurturing nature, and a fit, pleasant demeanor, becomes engaged after 18 months of dating. The difference isn't salary or being strong, it's market alignment. Melanie understood what her target market, men seeking wives, was actually looking for. Final thoughts. Dust is feedback, not a curse. Being single at 30 plus isn't a death sentence, but pretending it's solely men's fault is intellectual dishonesty. Dust collecting on a product is a feedback mechanism, not oppression. It signals that adjustments are needed if one wants different results. A wise woman would ask, am I presenting what I think men should want? Or am I presenting what they are actually looking for? Good products don't collect dust. They sell themselves because they meet the needs of the market. Without marketing gimmicks, blame, or denial. The same is true in love. Chapter 14. Proof the past matters. In modern dating discourse, there's a common phrase tossed around, especially by women, that says, don't judge me for my past. But let's be honest, everyone judges the past. And more importantly, everyone understands that the past matters. In fact, we use the past as a decision-making tool in every meaningful area of life. Let's start with something as basic as employment. When you apply for a job, what's the first thing you're asked to bring? A resume, a document that lists where you work, what you've accomplished, and how long you stayed at each position. Your past experience is used as a measuring stick for your potential future performance. Next comes the background check. Employers want to know, have you ever been arrested, convicted, charged with fraud or violence. It doesn't matter how charming you are in the interview. Your past behaviors will either open doors or close them permanently. And finally, there's a drug test. This is another way to assess if your past choices might affect your reliability or safety on the job. So let's break this down. If your work history is inconsistent, you are seen as unstable. If your criminal record is serious, you may not get hired. If your drug test comes back dirty, you are disqualified. No one calls this judgment. They call it due diligence. So why is it that when it comes to dating and relationships, something that can lead to marriage, children, shared assets, and legacy, we're told to throw the past out the window? Let's be honest. A bad employee costs a business money. A bad partner can cost you your finances, peace of mind, emotional health, years of your life, and in some cases, your freedom. If we require a resume for someone managing spreadsheets, we should absolutely consider someone's past when deciding if they're fit to raise children with or share a home. This includes relationship history, how many, how long, how did they end? Sexual history, do they have impulse control, respect their body? Financial patterns, debt, reckless spending? Family structure, do they repeat cycles of dysfunction or growth? Emotional maturity, do they evolve or stay in blame mode? Women already understand this deeply. That's why most won't date a man who lives with his mom, has multiple kids by different women, or has a record. They're using his past to judge his future. But when the tables are turned, they suddenly cry, "You're being judgmental." It's not judgment. It's risk management. Take Derek, a 32-year-old man with a stable job, no kids, and plans to marry in the next 2 years. He meets Latasha, a vibrant 30-year-old with a sharp wit and great energy. But after a few conversations, Derek learns that Latasha had 40-plus sexual partners, cheated in 2 past relationships, and refers to her exes as all narcissists. When he hesitates to move forward, Latasha tells him, "That's the old me. Don't judge me for my past." But Derek replies, "If I applied for a job and told them I've been fired 5 times and showed up late regularly, but said that's the old me, they'd still pass. And they'd be right." Latasha is offended, but Derek walks away. He's not cruel. He's careful. He understands that the past may not define someone, but it definitely predicts patterns. If a trailer looks bad, most people don't see the movie. That's not judgment. That's pattern recognition. Your past is not a prison, but it's a profile. It shows your tendencies, your habits, and how you respond to conflict, commitment, and accountability. A smart man or woman would never ignore that. If the past matters for jobs, loans, government security clearance, and even car insurance rates, it absolutely matters in choosing someone to build a future with. Proof the past matters is everywhere. Chapter 15, Healing the Divide. After unpacking the hurt, anger, confusion, and frustration between black men and black women, the natural question becomes, where do we go from here? The truth is, despite all the conflict, many black men and women still deeply desire one another, not just romantically, but spiritually, culturally, and communally. The war of words, memes, and talking points has distracted us from the shared pain we carry. It has obscured the fact that both sides feel unseen, unsupported, and misunderstood. Healing this divide requires more than just surface affirmations of black love. It requires accountability, emotional honesty, and mutual willingness to do the work. Acknowledging the hurt. Both men and women must acknowledge the pain they've caused and the pain they endured. Black women have been burdened with carrying entire households alone, navigating career and motherhood while being told they're too masculine. Black men have been expected to perform as providers and protectors with limited tools, emotional neglect, and a societal system that often erases their humanity. Healing starts with recognizing that both truths can exist at once. No one is entirely the villain. No one is entirely the victim. Unlearning the echo chamber. The social media space has fed us algorithms of division. It rewards mockery over maturity and clout over clarity. Healing the divide means logging off long enough to think critically about what you believe and why. Are your beliefs rooted in your own values or recycled trauma from strangers online? Are you dating real people or debating avatars of the opposite sex in your head? Restoring trust through accountability. Accountability is not blame, it's acknowledgement. Men, are you leading with integrity or just demanding submission? Women, are you offering partnership or just expecting perfection? Trust is built when each side takes ownership of their role and commits to showing up better. Empathy is the bridge. Empathy does not mean agreement. It means listening to understand, not listening to react. Until Black men feel safe to be vulnerable and Black women feel safe to be soft, the gap will remain. Empathy is what turns confrontation into conversation. Rewriting the blueprint. We must collectively rewrite what love, partnership, masculinity, and femininity means in our community. Masculinity is not stoicism, it's consistency. Feminism is not silence, it's confidence without aggression. Love is not sacrifice without reciprocity. It's service with mutual respect. Let go of outdated templates. Build new ones that honor where we've come from and where we want to go. Healing is not a destination. It's a process. A daily commitment to communication, forgiveness, honesty, and emotional investment. It may not always be easy, but neither is staying in the cycle we're currently in. The divide won't close overnight, but if enough people begin building bridges through action, not just posts, then perhaps the next generation won't inherit the same war. Chapter 16. Building better relationships. Healing the gender divide is only the beginning. The next step is construction. Building stronger, more emotional, intelligent, and mutual respectful relationships between Black men and Black women. This chapter focuses on the intentional practices, mindset shifts, and principles that can help both parties move from tension to teamwork. 1. Lead with clarity, not confusion. Too many modern relationships begin with ambiguity. Let's just vibe. We'll see where it goes. I'm not ready for anything serious unless it feels right. Clarity isn't about moving fast. It's about moving with purpose. Men and women alike should be honest about what they want. This minimizes emotional games, prevents wasted time, and ensures both people are aligned in expectations. Rebuild trust one vulnerable moment at a time. Trust isn't just about fidelity. It's about consistency, honesty, and emotional safety. Men must feel safe expressing fear of failure. Women must feel safe expressing needs or softness without being ridiculed or ignored. I feel is not weakness. I need is not nagging. Relearning emotional language and practicing safe vulnerability are fundamental. Relearning emotional language and practicing safe vulnerability are fundamental to deeper intimacy. Relearning emotional language and practicing safe vulnerability are fundamental to deeper intimacy. 3. Define roles by strengths, not stereotypes. Instead of defaulting to outdated gender roles, men pay, women cook, couples should define roles based on mutual agreement and individual strengths. If she's better with money, she leads the budget. If he's a better communicator, he initiates the hard conversations. Healthy relationships are partnerships, not performances. 4. Prioritize emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is the currency of connection. It's what helps you resolve conflict without escalation, hear what's not being said, respond instead of react, apologize without defensiveness. EQ can be learned. Books, therapy, and real-life practice are tools everyone should be using, especially in romantic contexts. 5. Stop competing. Start collaborating. Too often, gender wars are fueled by one-upmanship. Men cheat more. Women are worse at accountability. Women don't submit. Men don't provide. These arguments only serve egos. They don't build bridges. Real relationships are collaborative. They require sacrifice, compromise, and mutual respect, not scoreboard keeping. 6. Be willing to heal first. Date later. Many people are dating from a place of void, trying to use a relationship to fix loneliness, trauma, or insecurity. That creates a codependency, not connection. Before dating seriously, each person should ask, have I forgiven my last partner? Am I over my childhood wounds? Can I offer peace, not just presence? If not, the relationship will likely mirror your unresolved pain. 7. Normalize counseling and relationship coaching. Couples don't need to wait till everything is falling apart to seek help. Therapy, coaching, and mentorship can proactively strengthen a bond and help uncover blind spots. Think of counseling as relational maintenance, not just crisis control. 8. Build a relationship culture, not just a romantic vibe. Relationships are not just about attraction. They're about lifestyle. What values define your union? What rituals or boundaries do you practice? Having a relationship culture might include monthly check-ins, shared goals and vision boards, weekly no-phone dinners, conflict rules, no yelling, no name-calling. Culture creates consistency, and consistency builds trust. The big picture. Healthy Black relationships are revolutionary acts. In a world that profits through our dysfunction, through media, courtrooms, and online chaos, loving one another intentionally is resistance. Better relationships aren't about perfection. They're about humility and willingness to grow. Let this be the era where love is not war, but work. And in doing the work, many will find peace. Chapter 17. What the future holds. As we come to the end of this book, one truth remains. The future of Black relationships is unwritten. Despite the viral clips, bitter debates, and digital dysfunction, most Black men and women still long for connection, not conflict. But longing isn't enough. Change requires us to be brave enough to listen, to apologize, to let go of outdated scripts, and to choose each other without pride, fear, or performative expectations. We now stand at a cultural crossroads. One path leads deeper into the algorithm-fueled abyss. Echo chambers that tell us we're always right. Gender-bashing podcasts that get clicks but sow division. Viral disrespect disguised as content. The other path leads to restoration. Honest conversations rooted in accountability. Healing that starts from within. A generation that unlearns the pain and rewrites the rules. The question is, which path will we choose? A generation in transition. Gen Z and millennials are already redefining relationships. They're delaying marriage, but craving connection. They value therapy more than tradition. They want freedom, but also family. They question old rules, but still long for love. The future will be shaped by how willing this generation is to unlearn survival tactics and instead build connection blueprints. This shift won't come from institutions. It will come from individuals who decide that healing is more powerful than hostility. What we must do: speak truth, not pain. It's easy to complain. It's harder to communicate. The future requires truth tellers, not just trauma dumpers. Be builders, not blamers. We can't keep blaming the opposite sex for everything that's wrong. At some point, we must ask, what am I building? Choose legacy over likes. Viral clips fade. Broken families don't. Let us make decisions that honor future generations, not our follower counts. Hope on the horizon. There are signs of hope everywhere. Men going to therapy and mentoring young boys. Women embracing vulnerability without losing their strength. Couples publicly celebrating healthy love. Parents raising emotionally literate children. For every toxic podcast, there's a healing circle. For every bitter comment thread, there's a couple quietly building something real. Closing thought. This book was never about placing blame. It was about holding up a mirror. And in that reflection, perhaps we've all seen parts of ourselves we rather avoid. But now that we've seen it, we can't unsee it. The gender war doesn't have to continue. Not if we decide to fight for each other instead of with each other. The future of Black love is in our hands. May we hold it gently and fight for it fiercely.
Like, subscribe, comment, and please share.